Today is Holy Thursday, the day Christians celebrate the Last Supper, Jesus' last meal. The Gospel accounts are not well told. There are some gaping holes in the story, and I tell you about them in this video. You know the story. Jesus and his disciples met in the upper room to celebrate the Passover meal. At the meal, Jesus discloses that someone at the table is going to betray him. The word betray embeds an element of surprise and deception. How can one be betrayed if he knows in advance he's going to be betrayed? Jesus had plenty of time to get out of Dodge, but he elected not. Thus, that which was about to take place that evening and the following day could have been avoided. What was he up to? There are two ways to look at it. In one, his pending death was preordained as the work of salvation for sin forgiveness to reconcile God with man and overcome the consequence of the fall in the garden. The consequence included a return to death's mandate, the forfeiture of eternal life. That's a pretty tough sentence. Either that or it was showtime. Jesus was having a difficult time getting his message of eternal life across, so he decided to do a watch this trick. Turned himself over for execution, and you know what happened next. The early church theologians opted for the first choice, but we now know it was the wrong decision. There was no return to death's verdict rendered because of the first sin. As I have shown in other videos, a corpse left to decay is a personal choice, not a verdict in divine wrath. That little change has a domino effect. There was no fall in the garden, no eviction, no lockdown, and no need for a blood sacrifice to straighten things out. Jesus died to show us how to gracefully exit the planet, as so many are doing in modern times, not to remove the stain of a sin that never happened. The words, "He who dips his hand into the dish with me is the one who will betray me," were a command, not a prophecy. Judas responds to those words by saying, "Surely it is not I, Lord." Now, if there was a betrayal, can you imagine the betrayer actually uttering those words in front of his peers? In real life, it would result in a good knock on the head. It makes no sense. In the Gnostic Gospel of Judas, disciple Judas is portrayed as special in the eyes of Jesus, a partner to arrange the arrest. The Greek word used for betrayal is paradidios. It doesn't mean betrayal. It means to surrender, to assign responsibility for getting something done. So what happens is Judas rats on Jesus, gets him arrested, and the rest is history. Judas gets a black eye out of the ordeal, and now no one names their kid after him. The arrest in the garden confirms the story. In Matthew and Mark, Judas makes prior arrangement with the Jewish leaders that he will identify Jesus with a kiss. The Greek word, which translates to kiss, is philiso, an affectionate peck on the cheek. But when time comes to make the kiss, instead he gives Jesus a kataphilasin, meaning a show of affection and a common bond. Judas did as he was commanded, and now he is telling Jesus, "I've done my job, and I stand with you." I find a little humor in the arrest account. In John's Gospel, when the mob arrives looking for Jesus, and he identifies himself by saying, "I am," everybody falls to the ground. Then they get up and make the arrest. Can you picture that scene? A bunch of heavily armed, rough and tumble guys falling to the ground because the one they are to arrest says, "I am." Then a fight breaks out. Someone on Jesus' side was packing heat. In Matthew, it is one who accompanied Jesus. Mark said it was a bystander. Luke said it was one of them, whatever that means. John identifies him as Peter. I'm going with John on this one. Peter, it is said, cut someone's ear off. Now, it's not likely that Peter swung his weapon with the idea of surgically removing someone's ear. Most likely he tried to cut the guy's head off, and the guy ducked. In Luke, Jesus heals the injured man as if to say, "Hey, sorry about one of my guys trying to kill you. Let me make it right." Mobs, for all of their disarray, are a band of brothers. It is hard to imagine Jesus being the only one arrested. Peter, or whoever it was that tried to kill someone in the mob, goes scot-free, or so we are told. Then there's something else strange. In Mark's account, a young man in Jesus' party was clothed in a linen cloth. When he tried to escape the mob, someone grabbed the cloth and he ran away naked. What is that all about, and why did Mark think it is important enough to mention? Here's my take. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus tells us, his disciples, that if they want to uncover their inner divine presence, they must be willing to strip naked in public and not be ashamed. I'm thinking Jesus was recruiting and initiating right up to the last minute when the mob arrived. Here we find further expression of the bold, in-your-face attitude that he displayed throughout his ministry. So look, believe what you want. I read the gospel accounts of the first Last Supper with what I think is a dose of common sense. Clearly, a last meal took place in advance of the greatest act of love in human history. You think turning water into wine was something? You ain't seen nothing yet. Watch this next trick. Then the early followers declared the empty tomb they found 3 days later a miracle, thus placing resurrection something beyond human capacity, even though people in Tibet have been replicating the deed ever since in modern times. Just be aware, as you celebrate Holy Thursday, there's more to reading the Bible than knowing how to read. My latest book is available at all major booksellers. Check it out for more dirty little secrets. And thanks for listening. Be safe. Keep that social distance. Wishing you an abundance of toilet tissue. And I'll catch you later.